now a SI Fan Nation channel. And today, here on Between the Ears, we're going to talk about the future of West Virginia, since we're probably going to get a good chance to see a lot of those pieces this Saturday when the Mountaineers take the field against the Towson Tigers out of the FCS. Neal Brown has talked about getting some younger guys in the mix, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Mumu bin Wahad, Jacoby Spells are two true freshmen that are probably going to see some playing time this week, regardless of who the opponent is. I think that they were trying to get those guys ready anyways. Defensive end, Sean Martin, who is a redshirt freshman, a sophomore, has looked really good through the first two games and may even get a chance to start. Maybe not this week, but heading into Virginia Tech, that might be a case if he doesn't start this Saturday. So there's a clear focus on Neal Brown and this coaching staff getting a look at some of these younger guys, and rightfully so, especially, again, with the defensive struggles that they've had. Before we get to the offensive side, and there's going to be one guy in particular we're going to talk about, the main things that I think the coaching staff wants to see this Saturday against Towson is to come out with a clear mind, a clear focus, and to come out and play ticked off. You're 0-2. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. If it's Towson or Virginia Tech this week, it doesn't matter. You're 0-2. You have to come out and play like you're 0-2. Play with a sense of urgency. Play with a complete laser focus, and that you're mad that you're 0-2 and you just lost to Kansas at home in overtime by 2 scores. Like, you have to show that focus, show that energy. And I think that attention to detail is going to be huge. I think just getting back to the fundamentals, the basics of football is going to be huge. Communication, lining up in the right spot, good angles on tackling in their pursuit. That there's just so many things that go into winning football games that I think sometimes we forget about. The basics, the fundamentals. Don't beating yourselves with penalties. Don't get yourself in third and long situations. Don't turn the ball over. When the other team does turn the ball over, you got to do something with it, create points out of it. It's just the very small, minute things that this team has not been able to do. They've been constantly getting in their way. And I think this is probably the only time you're going to be able to go out there and get away with any of those errors or those mistakes. So you might as well get rid of it now. This is the perfect time for this team to hit the reset button, get back on track so that they can get ready to take on the Virginia Tech Hokies next Thursday in Blacksburg before getting back into Big 12 play for the remainder of the year. So with that said, there is one guy that might make his Mountaineer debut this Saturday, and that is quarterback Nicco Marchiol. Now, again, it's going to depend on how this game flows, how quickly West Virginia gets out in front, and how quickly they can get some separation, because we're going to see Garrett Green if that's the case, first and foremost. But I think we may get to a point where maybe late in the fourth quarter, we may get 6-7 minutes left in the game, and there may be a possession or two left for West Virginia. And at that point, we might see Nicco Marchiol. Neal Brown hasn't indicated this at all by any means. Graham Harrell hasn't really said anything that Nico will 100% play in this game. There's no certainty. But I did want to take a look at Nicco Marchiol's game tape from high school. He's the Arizona Gatorade Player of the Year. He had 37 touchdowns, had 2 interceptions, completed passes at a 74% clip. The dude was phenomenal in high school and is arguably the top rated quarterback to come out of high school to commit to West Virginia in quite some time, maybe since Geno Smith. So let's hit the tape on Nicco Marchiol and see how good of a quarterback the Mountaineers have, potentially sitting behind JT Daniels. All right, so here we go. The potential future of West Virginia, Nicco Marchiol. What a throw there. Just the flick of the wrist off balance. There he stands in, takes a shot, delivers one over the shoulder, beats the coverage deep. I mean, this is, I don't want to get to comparing him to anybody else, but just kind of the way he plays, the style of the kind of the backyard style that he brings to the game is kind of Patrick Mahomes like. Now, again, I'm not saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that he's going to be as good as Patrick Mahomes by any means, but just the throws that he can make are unreal. I mean, he can get a lot of these throws off balance, flick the ball 30, 40 yards down the field, has great vision, knows where to go with the football, gets the ball out quick. I mean, this is some awesome stuff right here from Nicco Marchiol. That's an NFL throw right there. I want to go back to this one real quick. This is a NFL throw, opposite hash to the sideline for the first down. That's a good throw, good ball from Nico. And then you see here's his mobility. And I think that's the one thing about Marchiol that really gets fans excited because, really since, Geno Smith was probably the last true, well, no, I should take that back. Skylar Howard was a little bit of a mobile quarterback, but since Skylar Howard, there has not been much mobility in that quarterback room. Will Grier was probably a better athlete than he was given credit for, but definitely not a guy that was going to scare anybody with his legs. Austin Kendall was extremely limited with his mobility. Jarrett Doege, the same thing. JT Daniels, I would say, kind of fits under that Will Grier umbrella of, he's probably more athletic than he's given credit for, but again, not somebody that you would want to pull the ball and run with. I think Nicco Marchiol is a guy that they're going to allow to run the football with, whether it be quarterback reads, design QB draws. They're going to get the ball into the best player's hands, and if that's just Nico pointing, keeping it there, you see right there's a good read option. I mean, this is a true dual threat talent that West Virginia is going to have. Waiting in the wings, good fit ball right here into the back of the end zone, triple coverage. Just slings that ball out extremely fast, quick release. The ball just shoots out like a cannon. And he can put a good touch on the ball with good placement. I mean, this is just some really interesting stuff here. And again, whether he starts in 2023 or 2024 or even later, that's to be determined. I think a lot of that's obviously going to depend on what JT Daniels does. Does he come back for for a senior season, or does he leave for the NFL? We'll have to see how his 2022 campaign goes, but the way he started the season and what he's already put on tape, he's looking to be like at least a late round NFL prospect, which could open up the door for Nicco Marchiol in 2023. We talked about Nicco Marchiol and the relationship with JT Daniels a couple of weeks ago. These two guys have been super tight. Neil Brown mentioned it again last night on his coach's show, and that Nico's asking JT very good questions. He's being super curious about things, just wants to dive into this and really become the best player he can possibly be. And I've got to be honest with you, I don't think that he could have had a better mentor than JT Daniels. If you just listen to a JT Daniels press conference and he talks about what he sees coverage-wise from the blitzers, just him dissecting a play, it's very, very fun to just sit there and listen to. Very intelligent quarterback, and that is, I think, something that they probably wanted to have in that quarterback room with Nico and the other quarterbacks. Not that Jarrett Doege wasn't that type of guy, but JT Daniels' intelligence and football IQ is just on a whole nother level. So that's going to be all we show here for Nicco Marchiol. Again, the true freshman quarterback for West Virginia. Looks like the Mountaineers have a true talent there sitting, waiting in the wings underneath JT Daniels. Again, we might see him here on Saturday. If we do, I think the biggest thing I want to see from him is really just how he handles adversity, if adversity comes. Now, again, there's probably not going to be much because the game's going to be well out of hand at that point, if he even is in the game. And, who knows? They probably won't even throw the ball that much. But if he does get into the game and maybe starts off a couple of incompletions, maybe takes a sack, so on and so forth. I kind of almost want to see that happen just to see how he responds. He's a true freshman, and he's probably going to respond differently this year than he maybe will in 2 or 3 years. But I want to see how he responds as a true freshman in those situations where maybe things go a little sideways for a moment. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Between the Ears here on Mountaineers Now. Be sure to click that subscribe button on YouTube, Mountaineers Now. You can follow us on Twitter at Mountaineers Now, myself at Callahan _. And don't forget, tomorrow after the game between West Virginia and Towson, myself and Eugene Napoleon will be right here on the Mountaineers Now post-game show. We're going to dissect everything that just happened. We're going to recap the game, talk about stats and our players of the game as well, and sneak peeking into that next week matchup for the Black Diamond Trophy against Virginia Tech. So until then, take care.